Week 4 game reactions. Let's get it started. The NFL is a fantastic sport. There are highs and there are lows, and I have experienced both today. But starting on a high, let's talk about those Bucs. You can't see it enough from that angle. Yeah, Mike Evans. I said he was going to score a touchdown. What my man do? Got him. Touchdown, baby. Let's get into it. Eagles at Bucs. Eagles are 2.5-point favorites, and they got smacked up. It was bad. Well, for them, not for us. We were fine. Let's start with the losers. Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, we all start at the top with the quarterback. Jalen Hurts had a bad game. Threw for less than 200 yards, 158. One touchdown in the air. And I'll give him credit. He had one touchdown on the ground, as well as 20 yards. That's not bad. It was more of the mistakes. I know that he didn't have his squad with him, so I'm not going to be too hard on him. Without A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, personally, I didn't think the Eagles would win, but I didn't think it'd be this bad. They've scored 0 points in the first quarter all year, so that's not just this game. That's a season problem. 0 offensive yards in the first quarter. What? 0 first downs until 6 minutes left in the second quarter. What in the world is happening here? I know they're missing their top 2 receivers, but I figured they'd be able to string something together. Jalen had a bad fumble, and then he almost had a second one. You got to hold on to the ball, dog. Would have thought you learned this in the Super Bowl. That's enough about Jalen Hurts. Moving on. Saquon Barkley is that dude. He rushed 10 times for 84 yards, no touchdowns. He did get 32 yards in the air off 2 receptions, which is solid. Dallas Goedert was on my love list this week. 7 receptions for 62 yards. I'll take that. I would have preferred, obviously, if he got in the end zone, but he led the team in targets, receptions, and yards. Can't really ask for much more than that. Moving on to the winners, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker put in work today. Threw for 347 yards, 2 touchdowns, and rushed for a touchdown that looked pretty good, actually. It looks like our running backs are splitting down the middle right now. Both Rachaad White and Bucky Irving had 10 carries, each for 49 yards. Bucky Irving ended up in the end zone. Shout out to you, Bucky Irving, on your first NFL touchdown. Let's go! I had Chris Godwin and Mike Evans on my love list this week. Chris Godwin went 6 for 69. He didn't get the touchdown. The touchdowns actually went somewhere else. That really held him back. I feel like if he would have got that touchdown, I would have felt a little better about it. 12.9 points. Ho-hum. But Mike Evans put in that work, though. 8 receptions for 94 yards and a touchdown, which I called, by the way. When the lion is hungry, he eats. I figured after that terrible game last week, Mike Evans was going to be a focal point. You're not going to let him stay down very long. Trey Palmer got the touchdown that I thought was going to go to Chris Godwin. Disappointing, but touchdown to touchdown for the Bucs. Let's go. I did make a trade right before the game started. Let me know what you think. I really needed a running back. This is a dynasty league. Christian McCaffrey is out for who knows how long. I'm currently starting David Montgomery and Tajay Spears, which is not optimal. My receivers are fire. Nico Collins, Rashee Rice. I'll get to that later. Devonta Smith and JSN. So my receivers are good. Quarterback, I don't need to get into all that. Anyways, let me know what you think. I sent Wan'Dale Robinson a 2025 third, a 2026 first, and a 2026 fourth for Saquon Barkley and Elijah Mitchell. This is Dynasty, and I know he's an older running back, but I'm in a win now window, so I'm trying to take it down this year. What do you think about this trade? Also, do you like trade talk and my fantasy football talk in general? Are y'all interested in that? Let me know down in the comments. I'm very curious about that. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. On Sundays, I watch Red Zone. So it's 7 hours of commercial-free football, which is fantastic. But I don't get to do a deep dive live when this is happening. And I'm recording it Sunday afternoon. So I haven't had a chance to deep dive. This is gonna be a little surface. I'm gonna have to go back in and do some more research to figure out who did what specifically, but I want to talk about my reactions. Saints at Falcons. Falcons were 1.5-point favorites, and the Falcons took it at the end on a nice long field goal. Not gonna lie, I was sweating that one for a minute there. Derek Carr threw for no touchdowns, but it doesn't mean the team wasn't scoring. Alvin Kamara looked great as usual with over 100 yards total and a touchdown. Taysom Hill was knocked out of the game, but not before he scored 2 touchdowns. Let's go, Taysom. They won this game without Kirk Cousins throwing a single touchdown. Defense got 2 of them things. Some of y'all started them. Y'all asked me whether or not you should start the Falcons defense. And I said yes. Good job. Bijan Robinson. He wasn't very impressive. 7 carries for 28 yards. Whoa. Tyler Algier, why are you out touching my dog, Bijan Robinson? What are we doing here? Darnell Mooney, okay. 8 fantasy points, 56 yards, 3 receptions. All right. Ray McLeod was doing better, but I still like Mooney. I had a lot of questions about starting Mooney over people, though. I thought he'd be okay, and he was a little less than okay, honestly. Back to the Saints, though. Chris Olave, 8 for 87, and he was banged up during the game. Rashid Shaheed, 8 for 83. That's nice. Moving on. Steelers at Colts. Steelers are 1.5-point favorites and did not cover. They came back in the end and made it look more competitive, but, oh man, this was a tough game. And Anthony Richardson got knocked out of this one. Let's get into it. Starting with the losers, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Justin Fields was up and down, but to be fair, he threw for over 300 yards, passed for a touchdown, rushed for 2 and 55 yards. He made a couple boneheaded plays, but all in all, he got them close to being able to win. I know close only counts horseshoes and hand grenades, but they're 3-0, now they're 3-1. They definitely have some things they can clean up. Najee Harris, what are we doing, man? 13 carries for 19 yards. My man is 1.5 yards a carry. He did get involved in the passing game, 3 for 54. You like that. Almost tripled his rushing, but yards are yards. Happy about it. I had George Pickens as a sleeper this week, mainly because he wasn't playing well recently, at least in a box score. I know people are, the box score. I get it. I'm just saying we play fantasy football, and that kind of stuff matters. Just saying. I get points for box score stuff. Not that that's the only thing that matters, but at the end of the day, you don't get points for penalties and stuff. But I thought he would get it done today, at least pretty well. And he did! 7 receptions for 113. No touchdown, but you'll take that. That's good. Pat Freiermuth came down with a touchdown, 5 for 57. That was actually a nice touchdown. He was like 4 yards out when he got in. That was good. Let's talk about the winners. The Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson went down fairly early in the game. Very disappointing. I had him as a hate this week, but I didn't think this would be the reason, obviously. Not like this. Get well soon, Anthony. I like to see you on the field. I know that you're going to get better. You're still basically a rookie in my eyes, so I'm not too hard on him. But having a backup like Joe Flacco sure does help. Flacco is solid. Threw for 168 and 2 touchdowns. Nice. Jonathan Taylor rushed 21 times for 88 yards and a touchdown. That's pretty solid. I do think he got banged up, but I have to look into whatever that was. I was wrong on Michael Pittman Jr. 6 receptions for 133 yards. Now, to be fair to myself, I didn't think Joe Flacco would be throwing the ball. Anthony Richardson was doing pretty solid for him prior to him going out, but I don't think it would have ended up like this. All in all, Michael Pittman Jr., solid. Actually, very good. 113 yards is very good. Joshua Downs, 8 for 82 and a touchdown. And this offense is just different when you have a Joe Flacco. He's going to throw the ball because he's not going to run it as much. He's also going to make less boneheaded plays. On to the next one. Rams at Bears. Rams are 2.5-point favorites, and they did more than cover that. Won 18-24. Let's get into it. Starting off with the losers, the LA Rams, who I thought was going to win. Mistake. Matthew Stafford had a bad game, threw for 224. He doesn't have his weapons with him, so I really wasn't expecting him to pop off, especially because he doesn't get it done with his legs. I did think he'd have a better game than this, though. He threw a pick. It wasn't a great pick either. Kyren Williams did work, 19 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown. You like that? Also had 4 receptions, only for 10 yards, but 4 receptions definitely helped. Tutu Atwell led the charge, but not far behind. Jordan Whittington, 6 for 62. He was a solid waiver ad. So was Tutu, to be frank. Over to the winners, the Chicago Bears. Bears. Took down the dub. Good job, Caleb. Only threw for 1 touchdown, and thank goodness he did, because he saved DJ Moore this week. Goodness gracious, that was a miss. Mostly miss. But you weren't starting Caleb, so keeping it moving. Oh, man. Hold on, before I do that. 38.8 QBR. DeAndre Swift popped off. This was a big miss by me. I thought that he wouldn't because he hasn't so far. But 16 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. The team had been talking about getting Roschon Johnson involved, and though he did get involved, 7 carries, 26 yards and a touchdown, it didn't matter because Swift came through and did his thing. He also did his thing in the air, 7 receptions for 72 yards. Not a good miss by me. I don't think most people were starting Swift, but if you're listening to me, this was on your bench, and sorry about that. That was a miss. DJ Moore had his day saved with a late touchdown, 3 receptions for 22 yards and a touchdown. Thank goodness he got that touchdown. Keenan Allen's first game back, 3 for 3 for 19, got missed in the end zone. It was a pass interference, so I don't really want to say missed, but he didn't catch it. Oh, sorry. Give me a second. I'm watching Derrick Henry to the freaking house. Wow. Wow. I am facing him in a league. Give me a second. I'm going to go check to see what that did to me. Oh, lovely. That one hurt in a league I wanted to win. It's not over yet, but that is a heck of a start. I told y'all to trade for Derrick Henry weeks ago, so I don't want to hear anything about that. Man, 87-yard touchdown. All right, let me get back into this breakdown. Cole Kmet is a sleeper, did not work out. 3 for 34. Ugh. Also, there was a bunch of people out here asking me about Roman Doomsday, and I didn't choose him one time. I get some things wrong, but I get some things right too. Nobody's going to tell me about that, but it's fine. It's fine. I know how it is. You only really care when I'm wrong. Moving on to the next game. Vikings at Packers. Packers are 2.5-point favorites, and the Vikings win and cover, obviously. Let's get into it. Starting with the losers, the Green Bay Packers. This game took a turn at the end. The Vikings were whooping them up for a vast majority of this game. But in the fourth quarter, I'll give it to Jordan Love. He popped off. Jordan Love, I had on the hate list this week. It was his first week back. The Vikings defense has been popping. Well, didn't matter. 389 yards and 4 of them things. Them things are touchdowns. 4 of them things. He did throw 3 picks. So the Vikings defense was doing a little something. But 4 touchdowns. Whew, swing and a miss. Josh Jacobs splitting his carries is becoming a thing. 9 carries for Josh Jacobs. 8 carries for Emmanuel Wilson. Oof, this might be a thing. I'm noticing a trend. Well, I got one thing wrong in this game. That was Jordan Love. Got one thing right. Jayden Reed popped off, baby. Let's go. 7 receptions for 139 yards and a touchdown. He was on my sleeper list because he had been playing mid, but he popped off. Taking credit for that one. I will say this, Dontavian Wicks led the team in targets. Was not expecting that. 13 targets, 78 yards, and 2 touchdowns? 2 touchdowns? Threw it to him for a third, but that one got picked off. Shout out to Tucker Kraft for getting a touchdown too, but he did lose a fumble. Moving on to the winner's side. The Minnesota Vikings. Is Sam Darnold good? I think I need to upgrade his graphic. That red jersey might be getting some use. 3 touchdowns for 275, 1 pick. Not his best work. Really slowed down in the second half. They scored a lot to start the game. And then they put it on cruise control, and they probably should have kept their foot on the gas. You are in Lambeau in a division game on the road. Probably need to keep stepping on their neck. Aaron Jones popped off, though. 22 carries for 93 yards. In his return back to Green Bay, should have put him on the love list. That revenge game narrative. He also added 4 receptions for 46 yards. That's nice. Welcome back, Jordan Addison. I did not think that you would be a good start in your first game back, but you proved me wrong on the ground and in the air. He had 1 carry for 7 yards and a touchdown. Nice. And added to that, 3 receptions for 72 yards and another touchdown. Receiving this time. Vikings had a couple turnovers. I already talked about Sam Darnold throwing a pick. He also lost a fumble. So did Jalen Naylor. Not good. But they got the win, went to 4-0. Moving on to the next one. Broncos at Jets. Jets were 6.5-point favorites, and not only did they not cover, they lost outright. I'm not going to spend too much time on this game, mainly because it was ugly, but let's get into it. You know how I do it. Start with the losers. The New York Jets. Oh, man. Aaron Rodgers. You couldn't muster 1 touchdown, my boy? Threw for 225, no touchdowns. I know that it was an ugly game. Pretty sure it was raining pretty bad. Braylon Allen and Breece Hall are splitting work, basically. 10 carries for Breece Hall, 8 carries for Braylon Allen. Neither of them really played particularly well. Mike Williams is back. Alan Lazard was like a flex, and Garrett Wilson got the Pat Surtain treatment. 5 receptions for 41 yards. Honestly, I'm happy Garrett Wilson ended up with that stat line because he was negative fantasy points for a while. Pretty sure he had a fumble in there. Garrett Wilson, not a good start this week. He was on my hate list. I count that. I said he wouldn't play well, but you're probably going to start him, but you needed to have upside somewhere else. Moving to the winners, Denver Broncos. Congratulations on the dub. Bo Nix did almost nothing. 60 yards passing is wild. 1 touchdown, good for you. Got to eat this one, though. Javonte Williams, 16 carries for 77 yards. I thought he'd be a bust. That was a miss. He did split work with Jalen McLaughlin, 9 carries for 46 yards. But here's the thing. Tyler Bidet was one of the reasons why I thought that Javonte Williams wouldn't do as well, and he got knocked out of the game early. He got 1 carry. So that led to more Javonte Williams. I still take that L, but I get why at least. I like to at least understand why. Courtland Sutton came back to life for a little bit. 9 targets, 3 receptions for 60 yards and a touchdown. That's a pretty good fantasy day. I don't know how many of y'all were actually starting him, though. I don't really want to stay on this game. It was super boring. Moving on. Bengals at Panthers. Bengals were 4.5-point favorites, and they covered by 10. Let's get it started. Starting with the Lizards. The Carolina Panthers. Honestly, I thought Andy Dalton would have a good revenge game. Missed Deontay Johnson for a touchdown early in the game, and I think that could have changed a few things, but ended up with 220 for 2 touchdowns and a pick. Chuba Hubbard was the guy on the ground, 18 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown. Plus, he added 4 receptions to that. That's nice. Speaking of receptions, Deontay Johnson was on the love list this week. 7 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown. Let's go. Love to see it. Love to see it. I will say this, though. Xavier Legette, I had as if Deontay Johnson sat, you should start him. I was talking to one of my fans. Let me get that name right. T. Jones 1. He had Garrett Wilson. And we went back and forth talking this morning. And he was like, I'm going to start Xavier Legette over Garrett Wilson. Well, I'd say that turned out to be a good choice. Shout out. Good job. Great pick. T. Jones 1. That's what I'm talking about. Had to give you some credit on the show, dog. That was a great start. All right, let's move over to the winners. The Cincinnati Bengals in a clear must-win game. They were 0-3. They're now 1-3. Mazel tov. Joe Burrow was solid, 232, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. No sacks, kept him clean. This one I was not expecting. It was a complete split for the running backs. Chase Brown had 15 carries. Zach Moss had 15 carries. Chase Brown had 2 touchdowns. Those were supposed to be Zach Moss's touchdowns. Chase Brown looked good, though. If he's on your waivers, he might be on that waiver show. Jamar Chase did his thing, of course. 3 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. T. Higgins led the team in targets. 10 targets, turned it into 6 for 60. That's pretty good. All in all, the Bengals really needed this game, so I'm kind of happy they got it, even though I wanted to cover the spread, obviously. But I like when the Bengals are competitive. Well, good job fighting back in the standings. We'll see where this goes from here. Jaguars at Texans. Texans were 6.5-point favorites. Jacksonville covered, didn't win it. Let's get into it. Starting with the Lizards. The Jacksonville Jaguars in a must-win game does not win it. Trevor Lawrence threw for less than 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Only got sacked once. Pretty low QBR, 43. Travis Etienne led the team in carries with 11, but Tank Bigsby wasn't far behind with 90 yards. Travis Etienne, 11 carries, 50 yards. Tank Bigsby, 7 carries, 90 yards. He had a nice long 58-yard run. Good job. Brian Thomas Jr. did his thing. 6 receptions, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Let's go. Second in targets with 9. Following Christian Kirk back from the dead. 7 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. I was talking to some people. They had been dropping him. He might be on your wire. Check it out. Let's talk about the winners. The Houston Texans. CJ Stroud was on my love list, threw for 345 and 2 of them things. Clutch ending. Touchdown to put them on top and win the game. To the running backs, with Joe Mixon out, I said Cam Akers would be a sleeper. He slept. 13 carries for 53 yards. He wasn't as much the guy as I thought. Other running backs got involved. There was a receiving touchdown for a running back. Got snagged from him. Yeah, that was a miss. Nico Collins absolutely popped off, though. 12 receptions for 150 yards and a touchdown. Let's go. Stephon Diggs was okay. 5 for 69. That's about what I kind of expect from him without touchdowns. And the Texans go 3-1. Good job, Texans. Taking over this division. We'll be talking about some divisions at some point soon. But for now, on to the next one. Patriots at 49ers. 49ers 9.5-point favorites. They covered. Of course they did. Let's get into it. You know how we do it. Starting off with the Lizards, the New England Patriots. They didn't have much of a shot in this one. Jacoby Brissett was Jacoby Brissett playing against the 49ers. It was rough. threw for less than 200 yards, touchdown pick, keeping it moving. He did have 3 fumbles, only lost 1, but he had 3. That's a lot. Speaking of fumbles, Ramondre Stevenson, hold on to the ball. What are we doing here? Ramondre Stevenson has fumbled in every game so far this year. You are lucky Bill Belichick is not still the head coach of this team, or you would be riding the bench. Hold on to the ball. What are you doing? Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. Oh, so frustrated. Ramondre Stevenson, 13 carries for 43 yards. I mean, running against the 49ers is tough. He also added 4 receptions in the air, but ho-hum. Antonio Gibson got in there some more because Stevenson couldn't hold on to the ball. 3 receptions for 67 yards. That's pretty good. Had a long play for 50, but honestly, no one did anything else. Polk, 3 for 30, and then a bunch of no names doing nothing. Moving on to the 49ers. The winners, the 49ers. Brock Purdy had a ho-hum game, threw for a little bit less than 300 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Did more than enough to get the job done, though. Jordan Mason needs a graphic, Jeffrey, because 24 carries for 123 yards and a touchdown. This dude is a fantastic fill-in for CMC. Stay healthy, dog. Even with the Avengers back, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Juwan Jennings led the team in targets with 6, had 3 receptions for 88 yards. I was nervous about him starting with Deebo back, Brandon Ayuk, I'll get to him in a minute, and George Kittle, but 3 receptions for 88 yards. I think this is a thing. He might just be flex worthy. Deebo Samuel was solid in his first game back, 3 receptions for 58 yards, not bad. Brandon Ayuk got paid all this money and has done nothing since he got it. 2 receptions for 48 yards ain't cutting it, my boy. You getting outplayed by Juwan Jennings. I don't even know how much that man makes, but it's probably like a 1/10 of what you make. Bruh, I know you're playing yourself back into shape, Brandon Ayuk. We need to accelerate that, though. You hard to start. I'm getting so many questions about Brandon Ayuk, and I'm just honestly nervous to be like, yeah, no, you should start this middle tier player for him. But 4 weeks in, we got to actually start taking stock of who's doing what. And Brandon Ayuk just ain't cutting it. Now, I'm not saying that this is how it's going to be moving forward. I still think that he's a crazy buy low. You don't pay somebody that much money and not make him a focal point of the offense. But in regards to start-sit decisions, he might need to be more considered as a middling guy. Ranking him this high is not cutting it. George Kittle had a solid day with a touchdown, 4 for 45. For a tight end, that's fantastic. That's going to be it for this one. Moving on. Washington Commanders head to Arizona to play the Cardinals, and boy, oh boy. Commanders at Cardinals, 42-14. Cardinals were 3.5-point favorites, and they got smacked up. Let's get into it. You know how I do start with the losers, the Arizona Cardinals. This one hurt. Kyler Murray. Oh, man, I thought you were going to have yourself a game. You were an honorary Love member this week, the highest over-under on the week. Well, you hit the over, but it wasn't on your side, my boy. Threw for 142 yards and 1 touchdown. But he must have gotten work with his legs, right? No! 1 carry for 3 yards. Now, mind you, like I said before, I was watching Red Zone. I don't know if he got banged up, but homie was not running the ball. Luckily, my love list wasn't a complete failure, because James Conner came in and did his thing. 18 carries for over 100 yards and a touchdown. Let's go. He also added 1 reception in the air. Trey Benson got in a little bit of work. 9 carries for 50 yards. I'm not really concerned about that. James Conner, good job, bro. Marvin Harrison Jr., 5 receptions for 45 yards and a touchdown. That's solid. Everybody else is not worth talking about because they didn't play well. And their names aren't big enough. It's time to talk about the winners. The Washington Commanders go to 3-1. What? What is happening? And Jay Daniels looks fantastic. He was also on my love list. Let's go. Jayden Daniels went 2 for 33, touchdown and a pick. But that's not all. 8 carries for 47 yards and a touchdown. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. Jayden Daniels making that love list look good. Another man on my love list, Brian Robinson Jr. Let's go. 21 carries for 101 yards and a touchdown. That's what I'm talking about. Only problem was, with Austin Eckler out, I expected you to get all the touchdowns for the running back position. Who is this Jeremy McNichols? 8 carries for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. You stole 2 touchdowns from my dog. Brian Robinson had a good game. I'm still happy with it. Good job, dog. Proud of you. But, man, I wanted those touchdowns. Robinson did have 3 receptions, which I am happy about. Zacchaeus, who I didn't think would be very involved today, 6 receptions for 85 yards. That was great. Terry McLaurin, who was on my sleeper list this week, I think played well enough for me to be happy about it. 7 receptions for 52 yards and a touchdown. Yes, I will take that. A lot of people weren't starting him. If you're watching this, you were. 10 targets. Yes, you like that. You like that. You like that. I like that. That's enough on this game. Very proud of the Washington Commanders, 3-1. Good job. Cardinals, 1-3. Missing Trey McBride was showing, but still, 14 points. Y'all should have done better than that. Moving on. Browns at Raiders. Raiders were 1.5-point favorites. They covered. Browns suck. We're going to go through this one pretty quick. It was a bad game. It was a bad game. Starting with the losers, the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson was bad as usual. Jerome Ford rushed 10 times for 58 yards, which is solid. 5.8 yards a carry. You like that. He also had 7 receptions for 27 yards. That's good. You'll definitely take that from a running back you weren't really expecting anything from. Jerry Jeudy led the team in targets with 9, had 6 receptions for 72 yards. That's all right. Amari Cooper came back to earth, 4 receptions for 35 yards. Ugh. That's enough of this game. Moving on. I still can't believe they didn't play better. Now to the winners. The Las Vegas Raiders. Gardner Minshew was Gardner Minshew, not doing much. Threw for less than 150 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. Zamir White led the team in carries, didn't do anything with it. 17 carries for 50 yards. Moving on. Jacoby Myers was a sleeper this week. 5 receptions for 49 yards. 9.9 points. Okay, I guess. And everyone else sucked. Moving on. Also, Zamir White, hold on to the ball, bro. Fumble. Lost. Chiefs at Chargers. Chiefs were 7.5-point favorites. Won by 7. Didn't cover. Very close. I was nervous about whether they would or wouldn't cover. They didn't. It was close. Oh, Rashee Rice went down. And friendly fire at that. Oh, my gosh. Let's get into it. Starting off with the losers, the Los Angeles Chargers. They were depleted everywhere. Offensive line, Herbert, they were all banged up. Herbert threw for less than 200 yards, 1 touchdown, looked banged up. I got a lot of comments about misses and my hates for running backs. Missed on Swift, got J.K. Dobbins right. 14 carries for 32 yards, added 3 receptions for 36 yards in the air. I think that's worth a hate. He didn't do well. Gus Edwards, 6 carries for 19 yards is wild. Ladd McConkey did his thing, though. 5 receptions for 67 yards and a touchdown. Most of that was a long 37-yard catch, but that all counts. Solid fantasy day, dog. Let's go to the winners, and they're winners and losers. The Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes threw for less than 250. 1 touchdown, 1 pick. It happens when you don't have your top receiver. For those of you who don't know, I believe Patrick Mahomes threw a pick. Rice chased the guy down and caused a fumble, but Patrick Mahomes, diving to make the tackle, went right into Rashee Rice's knee, and it looked ugly. The team is fearing that it's an ACL at the moment. We don't know yet, but I am nervous and not optimistic about it. That could end his whole season, and he was playing fantastic this year. Well, let's keep going. The question of who would be the running back 1 when Kareem Hunt got back got answered. 14 carries for 69 yards. Yes, please. The rest are still going to get involved now. Samaje Perine, 5 for 14, but he was the one that got the touchdown. So I don't think that it's going to be a one-man show, but for first game back, Kareem Hunt running for 4.9 yards a carry, you'll take that. People were telling me he was washed. 4.9 yards a carry is not washed. Moving on to the receivers. Rashee Rice, no catches, ended early, first drive, sad. Travis Kelce came back to life, though, with Rashee Rice going down. 7 receptions for 89 yards, led the team in targets with 9, basically got the work that Rashee Rice was going to be getting. Xavier Worthy had a deep 54-yard touchdown. You like to see that. 3 receptions for 73 yards and a touchdown. He's going to have to step up with Rashee Rice going down. Also, Noah Gray's looking like he's getting involved. 4 for 40. Oh, look at that. Kareem Hunt, 2 receptions for 16 yards. You like that too, getting involved in the passing game. One of the reasons why Kareem Hunt was probably so involved was Carson Steele fumbled the ball. Come on, bro. You got to hold on to the ball if you want to hold on to the job. Chiefs win it, go 4-0, but not without a cost. Please let Rashee Rice be okay. Both for him, the Chiefs, his family, and my dynasty team, which really could use him. Get well soon, Rasheed. He couldn't put any weight on it, which is not a good sign. That's covered the 1 o'clock games and the 4 o'clock games. Right now, the Baltimore Ravens game is on my screen, and Derrick Henry is popping off, baby. Lamar Jackson's doing his thing so far, and the Bills have 3 points in the middle of the second, and I am watching Josh Allen get sacked. Looks like the Ravens was a solid pick. So what do you think about this format? Me just talking about the games, my thoughts, scores, and whatnot. Is there anything you want me to cover more or less? Let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, I'm going to start doing this thing where I'm going to give y'all a word or a phrase at the end of these videos. And I'm curious to see how many people actually watch to the end. And don't cheat. Don't be skipping to the end and not watching the show. I'm a whole theatrical experience. And it's going to be getting good this year. I got some data. Me and Jeffrey about to start going to work with that data. So if you made it to this point in the comments, right? Bucks win. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm also curious how y'all did in fantasy this week. And let me know who burned you. Who did you start that crushed you? And who saved you? It doesn't have to just be negative. Who saved you? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell down below. I'm going to have a lot of content coming out in these next weeks, months, years. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'll see you soon, Bay Nation. Hopefully you won, and if not, hopefully you win with these last 3 games. Talk to you soon. Peace.